Welcome everyone to another Raid Shadow Legends video. I'm DM recording from Down Under. In this video, I thought I would have a look at the Grim Forest as we finally finish up the first rotation. Now, if you watch my other videos, I covered a lot of the content for it. Here's where I ended up. So firstly, hard, I did everything except this stage, and I'll go through that in a second. Normal, covered everything for it. You see here all the quests are done. And we go back to hard, we go to the quests. So now the reason this boss is still open is because I have beaten him, but I haven't done all the reward tiers for it. And it's going to be a good talking point for the video, I think, in the end. So essentially, with each time you fight Frigius, there is 4 tiers. If you beat the first one, then it's counted as the stage is complete and you move on. If you want to get all the rewards though, then you have to get higher and higher. Now, I've managed to do this on all the other ones. This one's probably the hardest out of them. I can't remember any of the other ones having the requirement for the quest being so high at 35 million damage, almost 1,000. I wish it was 35,000. The hardest thing for doing these quests was actually getting the right champions on rotation. Now, there is also affinity as well, which can impact it a little bit. Having certain champions in this rotation, I had Marius there. Marius was one of the key components. Androck was also a key piece for it, but the other champions are not the ones that I wanted to get. Ideally, I would have had, sorry, got to find her, Raka. I don't think we can bring her up right now. Raka would have been an ideal one, Toshiro and Nut for it. Raka and Androck should be able to do most of the healing. Otherwise, a third person like a Pardon would have been perfect for it. Or Demetha would have been an option as well for the block damage. Now, essentially, I spent a lot of time re-rolling in order to try and get the rewards, to get the right champions for this. And in other stages, sometimes I got lucky. Other times it was, you know, a couple of re-rolls and it was fine. But this particular stage just could not get it. Could not get it no matter how many times. We're now at the end, so we see there is 6 hours left to go. With 6 hours left to go, I just don't have any more re-rolls. I can buy them, and I'll go through the vendor and these options in a moment. But essentially, it just came down to not could I do it, it's could I get the right team in order to do it. I would like that there was some kind of option where you could play around with these bosses without the restrictions and not get any rewards. I think that would be quite a good training tool. So for example, instead of having it locked out, I just choose the team I want. I choose Raka, Androck, Toshiro, Marius, etc. And then I do this, but I just can't get these rewards. I can just do it as many times as I want. And this is the other thing is, with this team, or with this fight, the first time you do it, it should use up some energy, but after that, it should be an unlimited chance to get the rewards for it. So you can do it as many times as you want to in order to try and get that. Now, like you'll see here, this run won't last too long for it. Very RNG for it. Theoretically, this team could possibly do it with absolutely perfect rolls on everything. But the reality is that it's probably not, you know, like the amount of time it would take to do it, just not worth it. So the idea in this boss is you have to destroy these plates. That'll cause damage to him. And then he takes the damage on the health bar. And that's what's counting towards his total damage, I believe. And then you just kind of have to rinse and repeat. He does get faster. So you need to do the damage early on and get those shield plates down in order to be able to essentially get the highest possible score. It's not the hardest thing to do the first rewards for, obviously depending on where you're up to in the game. But in terms of getting this last one, this hardest reward for it, there's just so much that goes into it. Right gear, right stats, right champions, RNG still plays a factor. There's so much that happens. So we'll see this fail eventually for it. It's not gonna, well, maybe I'll get a miracle run and it actually happens. But essentially, you know, we could be running this for as many times as possible. Now, I had a quick look at the vendor beforehand. There's limitations on what you can actually spend your coins on. One of the key things that I've been told is that the coins So the things from this reward, the only reason left to do this, those coins don't roll over. So once you've bought the chests, you can buy rerolls, you can buy upgrades to your curio to get extra bonuses, but none of those will actually count towards like none of like the rerolls and the curios are useless at this point, and the coins are useless as well because they don't carry over. So it's quite interesting for it. I'm going to end this run here because we can see we're behind. You need to essentially be doing roughly 1 million per turn. And with Marius dead, that's just not going to happen. So essentially I can buy some rerolls and try and complete it. But then again, what's the point? So let's have a look here at the actual vendor. You can see I haven't spent any coins at all. I ended up on 17,000. You'd end up roughly 17,700 or something like that, roughly for it, I guess. So you can get curios. Now, I believe these change from person to person. I could be wrong on that one, but you can buy, like I never found this one at all. What does it do? Places stun randomly. So I don't have that one on this mode at all for it. But you can only buy one of each of these chests. Now I am colorblind. There's only one source of, oh, sorry. These are different coins. Sorry. Getting ahead of myself and getting a bit mixed up. I've been looking at a lot of these details. So the coins can be used for the rerolls and all that kind of stuff. These ones can only be used for this. So if I actually do the math correctly, 4,500 leaves me with 3,300. So I can get that one. I guess there is actually a reason then to do this last one just to get the final chest, but it's only a small chest. It's not a big deal. So if we have a look at what comes in there, they're terrible at telling you what's actually in them. But there you go. You see it on my screen as I pull it out. And it does, yes, I don't have enough for it at this point. So I still have 17,000. I can upgrade some of these, extra damage. You know, these things could be just enough to get through. 3,000. Yeah, I don't know if it goes up every time you get an upgrade. No, it doesn't seem to, because that one's 3,000 as well. But essentially I can buy 5 of these at 2,500 and have 5 more chances of getting the right champion. It's okay. What I would rather see the option for is the ability to lock 1 or 2 champions in per rotation. So for example, on this draw, I have Marius and Androck that I want. It would be good to be able to spend a resource from specific to the Grim Forest and lock Marius and Androck, and then just spend forever re-rolling until I got the other 3 champions. I think that could be a cool mechanic in order to reduce the RNG. And that's what's going to come down to the mode itself. Is RNG is probably the biggest factor. There wasn't any stage that I struggled with when I had the champions I wanted to. But when I didn't have it, then it pretty much was just waiting until I could re-roll the team in order to do it. The purple bosses were probably the biggest example of that. They were the hardest ones because they're so limited. But you'll see, Tashira, Androck carried it. What else we got? Odin. Odin's really painful because of the block damage. So you want to have a buff stripper for it. Otherwise, you just got to wait it out. Once you kill all the champions that are with the boss itself normally isn't too bad. Odin does have the big nuke that revives people, which can be a bit of a pain. But in short, taking out all the supporting champions and the fight becomes a lot easier. The other thing that's probably worth talking about is these other bosses. And it's cool that you can use the existing teams to play around and, you know, essentially just for free try a boss again to show off how it might be done. The problem with that I find is that, again, I want to try different champions and I don't want to spend a resource to do that. Why would I spend a redraw token to do something that I've already completed? I feel like once you've got the maximum rewards from a boss, you should just be able to, you know, practice as much as you want with the teams that you've taken into the Grim Forest. Or even with your full roster, I could see an argument for that. But at least with Grim Forest, take off the lock restrictions because you've already done the challenge itself. So, yeah, I struggle with that. The other thing was some of these bosses were actually harder than the main boss themselves. So that boss was pretty easy once I had the right team and that kind of stuff for it. The idea that you can go straight for the boss, who was down here. Because they're already dead, I don't get a chance to test out and play around, like how hard would it have been to fight this boss with those other bosses, because each of them has their own little impacts of freezing you and placing different debuffs on you, things like that. It would be nice to know how hard this boss would have been if I had 1, 2, 3, or even 4 of these other bosses active. And there is a badge, I believe, that you can get to display that you went the whole way fighting this boss with the other ones still there. So having them there will definitely turn this into a much harder fight. But otherwise, when he's not with those other bosses, it's the easiest fight. It was probably one of the easiest fights out of all of them that I had to do. You've got the Entangle here that's just stopping one champion. That just becomes a speed race. Essentially, the debuff can't be removed, so you have to wait for that to end with it. It's a pretty basic fight without the others, but I can understand the complexities of having these other bosses add effects to the fight. So I really find that it's a sad state that we don't get to play around and enjoy all of those different things. And I don't know, like next rotation, I don't know if I'm confident enough that I'll just go straight for the boss and try it with all these other ones, not knowing, you know, everything that's going to go into it. So yeah, I think that's a bit sad. But yeah, this boss was disappointingly easy by himself. As you can see, just slowly waiting it out, and then as you go along, you know, eventually you'll just get it. So yeah, the main takeouts I had was, it was fun. It was probably not so good on the exploration. Once you do it a few times, I would love a mechanic to auto path you to the next location. And I understand that might mean that you might spend extra energy a day so you do less fights, but I don't think people will mind that much in terms of saving time, instead of just clicking random spots just to move to the next fight, So I'd like to see some time-saving features so that Grim Forest doesn't take up so much time. We're already at a stage where there is a lot of time spent towards all the different areas: Curse City, Doom Tower, Siege, CVC, general grinding, events. You got the Coalition going on at the moment. So I think that there's a couple of ways that now that we've had a full play with it, they could reduce some of the time without reducing the experience. Because just clicking all these little ones, and especially these charms are just hidden randomly, and you get the quest daily to do 10 energy from here, which is this energy over here. I would like to see them speed it up, so you hit a button and it just, from this fight I've got unlocked, it just automatically paths me here, and then it automatically paths me here. It's quicker, it won't be as optimal, so you have a penalty for doing it, because I might want to go for the boss, but it's taking me this direction or whatever. Here's one that I managed to find that I hadn't done for it. Not too many of them around. I just started clicking them, honestly, once I was done. Just to... Actually, I had the quest to do the 10 energy, even though I'd done every single boss and fight, and other than Phrygius, I had done every quest available, and it still wanted me to click some energy. So I thought that was a bit weird as well. The difficulty is quite random as well. Most fights are easy, and then randomly you will find one team, and again, that can come down to the composition for it, but I definitely noticed that there was the odd fight that I was just caught off guard by. Whereas with all these other ones, if you watch the videos that I did before, the waves were so ridiculously easy. I wanted to talk a little bit as I was playing and explain like some of the enemies that we came up against, but a lot of them were the same compositions, and a lot of them died from Toshiro before I even got to talk about them. So the waves themselves were quite basic and honestly not fun. And it kind of reminded me of how they did waves in Faction Wars Hard, where my big gripe was the amount of Elva teams, for example, that would cleanse all debuffs and put block debuffs on. And it just became an endless, if you don't have a buff stripping champion, then those fights just got painful. You either had to be super quick or have the strip. And sometimes you just don't have it, especially for those newer players. Doesn't impact me as much, but yeah, definitely for those newer players, having so many different times that you have to get past that. And it's the same as, I think it's like stage 15 in Faction Wars Hard with Nell, who just destroys whole teams as well. Oh, there's another one as well. So yeah, the waves were a bit miss, but I thought the bosses were fine. Like having showcases for all these different champions, I hope that they can keep adding, you know, new champions that we get, like the fusions that we're doing and all the different ones they add to the game. It'd be nice to see them just have like some random ones just thrown in that are new, so we get a bit more of a different experience. It's a good way to show off these champions that may not always get shown off, or that you may not have, so you can just see them in action and get a bit more of an understanding for them. That way, if you find them in the arena or something like that, you have some level of expectation of what they may do. Oh, that champion's the one that does protected block damage, or protected block debuffs, or whatever it may be. It might just be a learning experience for it. The next probably topic is these mimic chests, who literally come down to, do you have heal reduction? Or theoretically, if you're that end game that, you know, you can take in 5 super nukers that can just do insane amounts of damage, they can do it without needing the heal reduction at all. But as long as there's a heal reduction on there, you can literally ignore this. So you throw a champion in there as a sacrifice, and then the other champion just takes it down. And it'll never heal, so the health pool isn't that high. So it's quite simple for this fight. It's a bit disappointing that it came down to just one mechanic being so important for it. And if you didn't take it, I took Morrigan, I didn't take, say, a Lemonici, who I didn't have built before this. If you don't take in the heal reduction into your teams, you're stuck in that rotation for a long period of time. I also spent some time trying to re-roll for Morrigan because she would not appear in the teams. And so every time I re-rolled, I just couldn't do it until she appeared in the team. So I think the Mimic's a really cool boss. I like the idea behind it, but I think they need some way of balancing out that heal reduction is so important one way or the other. But yeah, interesting. It's interesting either way for it. I'll let it play out as we talk for it. I probably don't have too many other things to talk about with Grim Forest anyway. The next thing is probably the fragments, and that you get both the relic ones as well as the fragments for the mythical champion from the Lizardman faction. Even though that Lizardman mythical probably isn't the strongest one out there, which makes sense for something that honestly feels somewhat easy to be getting from this. I think we'll see people getting it maybe about 4 months from now. So I don't think it'll be too long until we actually see that. Let me switch over. All the ads will pop up while I'm doing this. Summon pool is ending for those that don't have it. I already have Black Tusk, so I'm pretty happy over here. Fragment summons. So I got 20. Got 20 square straight from that. So that means 5 rotations roughly. They said that there was some RNG involved in it. I'm not too sure about that. But yeah, essentially 5 rotations for it, so 4 more rotations. Then you should be able to get this champion. Looks pretty cool. Has a kind of an Aztec kind of vibe in my opinion. Has utility, will be good. Any mythical is worth your time. There's no mythical out there that isn't worth building and won't get use. Just people compare them between the different mythicals, Sigfrind and, you know, Commodus and all that kind of stuff, Galathea. There's different tiers within the mythicals, but any mythical is absolutely worth it. Relic crafting, Grim Forest, here we go. I've got 100 mythical ones, so each rotation I get a 1 in 5 chance of a mythical. It is over here. Let me grab a drink. Fighting off becoming sick at the moment. So essentially, I've got to put it in, don't I? You've got 20% chance to get a mythical, 80% chance to get a legendary. It can also be 50-50 between the Grim Forest and the standard ones. So you might get one of these, or you might get one of these. No way to actually determine that. To be fair though, the standard ones are pretty decent. I really want this Volcardia cart for Titus, so I'd be happy getting the standard ones over the Grim Forest, but I can understand why people might be upset trying to get some of the Grim Forest ones out of these and only getting standard ones, that kind of stuff. But it's a massive amount of fragments compared to Chimera, which, you know, I'm getting heaps of the rare ones. I'm getting no mythical ones. I'm doing Nightmare, not Ultra Nightmare. Just struggling a little bit on my team to actually make Ultra Nightmare work. But yeah, essentially the rewards from Chimera pale in comparison to the rewards from Grim Forest. So that's a huge difference as well. And it's insane that Grim Forest is probably easier than Chimera, but we'll get more rewards for it. We'll get the mythical champion easily, easier than it was to get Empress, who is better, but a lot harder to get. And yeah, we get every rotation I can get 1 in 5 chance of getting a mythical. Chimera, I don't know that I'll ever get a mythical out of Chimera, you know? So that's another point to really talk about as well, is that Grim Forest really puts Chimera to shame. It means that they need to update Chimera to make it viable, because people are just going to do this and ignore Chimera completely, which I just think is going to be a huge waste. The only other thing is to talk about is that it took me, I had probably a week, maybe closer to 2 weeks available by the time I finished both modes for it. So there's more than enough time to go through, and if you don't do everything, all your 30 energy in one day, there is still plenty of time to do it. So that's the other thing that I thought was pretty good, that they gave you plenty of time. So yeah, to summarize, it was well thought through in terms of time. It had lots of content, which is both a good and a bad thing. The rewards are really worth your time in doing it. It added new bosses, which was exciting. It gave you a reason to look at old champions as well. It forced you, like Curse City does, to choose between your champions and not have them all available. So you can't just have 5 super champions and do everything. But in saying that, the redraw mechanic can lead to that still, especially when you're struggling. It's a lot easier for people who have a larger range that are well built, but it does force you to use a lot of your different champions throughout it. So I thought that was good. I just think that they could have a couple more improvements in terms of the redraw just becomes a mindless thing, that essentially each day you go in, hit your 4 redraws, and if you don't get it for that last stage or whatever, then, you know, you just don't do anything. So they need to do that. I think they can speed up the path that it takes to get to places. So just have an auto path feature. So you hit a button just down here and it says next battle, and then it just automatically works it out for you. I think that would be good. And yeah, the vendor is just not exciting. It's okay. These don't ever change as well. So that's probably another negative for it. These don't change. So if I'm looking for something specific, like the XP one, for example, I just never see it. So that's interesting as well. But that's my take. That's Grim Forest. We got through everything except for this one, which, like I said, I would have done if I got a magic reroll. Rewards don't carry over, so spend everything you can. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I enjoyed doing Grim Forest overall. As much as I've got some negatives to say about it, I enjoyed it. I think it's a good step forward, and I think the rewards make it worth your time. Thanks for listening.